Should you buy a 4.0 V6 Mustang? Well, I'll try to answer that question for you. I'll give you a tour of my car and tell you a little bit more about these. So why would anybody buy a V6 Mustang? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First is the price. Obviously a V6 is going to cost much less than a GT. Second is insurance. Insurance is not going to be nearly as bad for this car versus the 300 horsepower version, or worse if you're getting a newer car. However, you will find that the Mustang V6 still has a higher insurance price than a lot of standard cars. So that's going to be a concern. You might think gas mileage is going to be a factor, but I'm here to tell you it really doesn't matter. The V6 doesn't get appreciably better gas mileage than the V8 does, which maybe is a surprise, but you look at the EPA ratings and it's really not that impressive. Another reason, and this is not one that a lot of people think of, is you buy the V6 and you're probably not going to be as likely to be spending all kinds of money on modifications and trying to make it go even faster. That's been a wonderful side benefit of buying this one. That aside from a couple of things, and you'll notice the dual exhausts are one of them, there really isn't a reason to try to dump more money into this car to make it go faster, because it simply isn't going to be that much faster. Oh sure, you can buy supercharger kits and camshafts and headers and all that nonsense, but really, for what that stuff costs, if that's what you're after, you really should just buy the GT. So why did I buy this car? Well, at the time I needed a car. I didn't want to buy anything boring. And I had to ask myself, do I really need the GT for every day? I have other cars. My track car is a BMW. So this didn't really make a whole lot of sense to buy in a GT version because I wasn't going to take it to the track. I just needed something to get me back and forth to work. And I figured, why not buy something that looks really nice instead of something dull and boring like what I was driving before. So I love the way this car looks. I've always loved the S197. I've wanted one since they came out in 2005. And I searched and searched and searched until I found one that had the right combination of options and color and so on. I didn't want a black one. They made more black ones than anything. And I wasn't really looking for a gray one, but I came across this one-owner car. And it was in such nice shape and with such a good deal, I couldn't pass it up. So the practical aspects. This car's got a nice interior. I really like the styling. It's very reminiscent of the original cars. I did get one with a 5-speed manual transmission, which was a requirement. This one has the optional upgraded dash trim and upgraded door panels. More about those later. The trunk capacity is actually pretty good. The opening is a little peculiar because the taillights get in the way, but the actual depth is very impressive. Plus, if that's not enough, the seats fold down. The S197 chassis as a whole is a very reliable car. There's not a whole lot that goes wrong with these in either the V8 or the V6 version, but I'll give you a couple things to look for in the V6. Sorry about the dirty engine bay, it hasn't been detailed in a while. So the first thing you need to know about these is the cooling system. And it's really one component, and that's going to be this wonderful plastic thermostat housing. What a dumb idea that was. It's two plastic pieces sandwiched and heat welded together at the factory, and around 80 to 110,000 miles they'll typically fail. It'll look like an intake leak or something worse, but it's actually going to be this thermostat housing 9 times out of 10. They do make an aftermarket replacement. It's not terribly hard to do, just a little fiddly trying to get at the clamps. One other problem on these cars when they get some miles on them, and I'm talking about 150,000 to 200,000 miles, is you're going to get timing chain tensioner noise. The chain tensioners on these can go bad, and the problem with that is The 4.0 has chains in both the front and the rear. And the one at the rear is impossible to get at with the engine in the car. So you're going to have to pull the engine out when it's time to do those. It's an expensive repair. It requires special tools. And it's probably not for the average do-it-yourselfer to do. My car only has about 100,000 miles on it, so we should be good for several more years, but it's something to be aware of if you're looking at a higher mileage car. S197s are also known for passenger side floor water leaks. And all you got to do to fix that is take this cover off, a couple of screws across the front, remove this cover, and down inside that plenum, you'll find at the very bottom a rubber grommet that acts as a drain. It'll be clogged. Clean that out, and your problem should go away. One concern on the body is going to be the hood. The hoods on these are aluminum, and they're very, very expensive to replace. They go for over $1,000. And because they're aluminum, they have a tendency to corrode. Now, you wouldn't think aluminum would corrode, but underneath here is where you're going to want to look. This hood's been replaced before in this car, so it's not coming out with any rust bubbles. But along the front edge is where you're going to want to look. If you see a bubbling paint there, that's what that is. It's aluminum corrosion. There's no way to get rid of it. Oh sure, you can do some things to it and repaint it, and it'll stay there, stay away for a little while, but it's going to come back eventually. That's why you see so many fiberglass hoods on S197s. At the back of the car, you can get water leaks around the taillights, and the third brake light's also been known to leak. Just fresh gaskets and proper installation usually takes care of that. On the interior, these door trim panels, oh my. Every Mustang owner in the world that has one of these has probably re-glued theirs at least once by now. So I have a video on how to do that. This is the first one that I did, and it's not the best job. The passenger side one's much better. It's starting to peel back a little bit here and then a little bit along the edge here. But the passenger side one I did second, and that one actually has held up very well. And if you follow my instructions in my video on how to do that, it should last for you as well. One of the other things that I don't like about the interior is that every freaking one of these cars, the brackets for the seats to the floor, they get rusty. I have no idea why. It seems to be on all of them. Some people have reported problems with the shaker radios. I haven't experienced any trouble with mine. The shifter throw on these is really long. I'd like to get a short shifter for this car, but unfortunately, there's only one or two people that make them, and they're very expensive. Hurst used to make one, but it's no longer available. If you're really, really lucky, you might find one on the used market. One other minor annoyance I have with this car is this key location. The fob is forever dangling on my knee. The more keys you carry, the more problems you're going to have with that. I don't know why it's so low, but it is. Just something to be aware of as you're going in. Another thing worth mentioning is the trunk release. There is a key and a slot in the trunk lid. You can use the key back there. And also there is a button on the remote. However, there is no button anywhere inside the car, which is really annoying. My car is a pony package. The pony package is the only model that comes with this grille with the two small fog lights and the corralled horse. GTs have the large fog lights, and you can get a GT style replica grille with the driving lights in the aftermarket. The GT package also has a few other things. It came with these 5-spoke wheels originally, and the car also got the GT rear spoiler, or rear wing, which I absolutely could not stand. I hate pedestal spoilers. So I got a GT 500 replica lip spoiler, which I think looks way better. I also put dual exhaust in this car. More about that in a minute. And so I got the GT rear bumper so that they look like they belong there a little bit better. You can just cut the V6 cover, which is what was done to it originally. But the GT rear bumper just makes it look like it belongs. I also added this chin spoiler to the front. I didn't really want a big one, but I thought it needed something. And yes, I bought a shift knob. I also bought a nice aluminum blanking plate for the cigarette lighter, because the black plastic plug that goes in there is hideous. And I even blinged out my door pulls. Ooh la la. So, despite my commentary at the beginning of the video, I did spend money modifying my car. But it's mostly just cosmetics. I didn't expect the dual exhaust to do anything as far as performance, and it really hasn't. I just didn't think the car looked right with a single exhaust on it. The increased volume level is okay. The mufflers are actually a little loud, and I'm probably going to put factory GT mufflers on it to tone it down a little bit, because it's a little boomy and resonaty in the interior of the car when you're driving. The aftermarket has just about anything you could possibly want for these cars, so if you are into customizing them, at least in the looks department, that's fine. You can get pretty much anything you want. It's all very affordable too. But I wouldn't encourage you to buy one of these and try to get more performance out of it. I did buy a tuner, just mostly out of curiosity, and loaded one of their factory pre-made tunes in for the car with dual exhaust, running on 92 or 93 octane fuel. Honestly, I can't tell much of a difference. The seat butt dyno doesn't really tell me that the car is any quicker, but you don't know till you try. One of the big downsides of owning a V6 Mustang is no respect. Nobody gives you any respect for having a V6. You're going to be constantly asked, why didn't you buy a GT? Why would you waste your money on a V6? It's a chick car. I belong to the Mustang 6 Association, which is a group of people that don't have that same attitude and don't feel the need to demonize your car just because it's missing 2 cylinders. The thing to remember about Mustangs is they were not originally a muscle car. They invented the pony car segment, and they were just a really good looking car for people to drive on an everyday basis. The idea was, why drive something dull when you can drive something that looks exciting? Not everybody needs performance. Not everybody needs the ability to turn their tires into 2 stripes of molten rubber. I love this car. It's a lot of fun to drive. It's great to look at. And I don't think I'm ever going to sell it. I'm just going to keep running it until it falls apart. And then I'll probably buy another one. They're wonderful. Get one. How could you say no? One final note about the dual exhaust before we go. I will put a link in the bottom that shows the installation process and sound clips of this Flowmaster exhaust. I actually had this car down to American Muscle, and they used it as their demo car for 2 exhaust installations and videos. I'll put the link down there for the 2 exhausts, but this one is the Flowmaster, is the one I actually have on the car now. So if you want a Mustang but can't afford a GT, or your parents won't let you have one, or you're like me and you just don't see the need, pick up one of these. Or if you still want to go fast but don't want a GT, you can always get a newer one that has the 3.7 V6. They have 300 plus horsepower. I don't see the need for it, and I didn't care for the styling on those newer cars anyway. I've had this car for several years. It's been very reliable, very inexpensive to own. Fuel economy's okay. It's just a good looking car. And it is fun to drive. And I encourage anybody who wants one to get one. Thanks a bunch for watching. If you've got a V6, leave me a note in the comments. Have a great day.